各位听众您好，这里是 iGo News， 欢迎收听美国晚间新闻会诊，孔雀台观点。
Hello there, this is iGo News. Welcome to our U.S. nightly news summary from a Peacock Channel perspective.
今晚，距选举日仅剩数小时，白宫之争进入最后阶段。副总统卡马拉哈里斯和前总统唐纳德特朗普在关键战场进行最后冲刺。
Tonight, just hours before Election Day, the race for the White House is entering its final phase as both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump make their last push across key battlegrounds.
各竞选团队正动员所有可用资源，紧迫地召集选民参加这场以微弱差距和全国高度紧张局势为标志的选举。
Campaigns are deploying every available resource, rallying voters with urgency in an election marked by razor-thin margins and heightened national tension.
今天，哈里斯和特朗普分别发表了闭幕演讲，强调了他们对美国截然不同的愿景。
Vice President Harris and former President Trump each delivered closing speeches today, emphasizing their sharply different visions for the country.
哈里斯的主题集中在团结和社会正义上，呼吁黑人、拉丁裔和年轻选民等关键人群。
Harris is centering her message on unity and social justice, appealing to key demographics, including Black, Latino, and younger voters.
他在费城的集会上发言，呼吁支持者保持热情，将选举视为保护公民自由、生殖权利以及扩展所有美国人经济机会的关键时刻。
Speaking at a rally in Philadelphia, she urged supporters to stay energized, framing the election as a pivotal moment for protecting civil liberties, reproductive rights, and expanding economic opportunities for all Americans.
哈里斯还对医疗保健采取了坚定立场，承诺强化平价医疗法案，并投资于降低医疗成本、处方药价格和扩大弱势群体医疗覆盖的举措。
Harris also took a firm stance on healthcare, promising to strengthen the Affordable Care Act and invest in initiatives aimed at reducing healthcare costs, addressing prescription drug prices, and expanding coverage for underserved communities.
同时，前总统特朗普正全力以赴，在摇摆州穿梭活动，以高风险的方式动员他的基本盘。
Meanwhile, former President Trump is in full campaign mode, crisscrossing battleground states in a high-stakes bid to mobilize his base.
在每场集会上，特朗普都强调他的重点，专注于经济复苏、控制通胀和严控移民。
At each rally, Trump has underscored his priorities, focusing on economic recovery, controlling inflation, and cracking down on immigration. 在
北卡罗来纳州，特朗普警告在哈里斯政府下会出现混乱，并宣称他的领导将保护美国经济利益并维护边境安全。
In North Carolina, Trump warned of what he described as chaos under a Harris administration, asserting that his leadership will protect America's economic interests and maintain border security.
特朗普的信息特别引起了农村和保守选民的共鸣，这些选民持续将他视为传统价值观的拥护者和对抗政府过度监管的坚定捍卫者。
Trump's message has resonated particularly with rural and conservative voters, who continue to view him as a champion of traditional values and a staunch defender against what they perceive as an overreach of government regulation.
在密歇根州，哈里斯与工会工人和社区组织者共同竞选，承诺支持提高工资、工会保护和保障退休福利。
In Michigan, Harris campaigned with union workers and community organizers, promising to support higher wages, union protections, and secure retirement benefits.
哈里斯的讯息强调维护强大的中产阶级的重要性，并对抗华盛顿的企业影响力。
Harris's message emphasized the importance of maintaining a strong middle class and countering corporate influence in Washington.
竞选策略家表示，密歇根、宾夕法尼亚和威斯康星仍是关键。哈里斯希望通过展现自己是经济平等和劳工权益的倡导者来吸引工薪阶层选民。
Campaign strategists say that Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin remain crucial, with Harris hoping to appeal to working-class voters by presenting herself as an advocate for economic equity and labor rights.
在民调方面，几个摇摆州的民调显示僵持不下，误差范围内难以预测宾夕法尼亚、威斯康星和亚利桑那等州的结果。
On the polling front, several battleground state polls show a deadlock, with the margin of error making it impossible to predict the likely outcome in states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Arizona.
在全国民调中，两位候选人各得49%，这凸显了选举结果的不确定性。
In the national poll, both candidates are tied at 49% each, underscoring the uncertainty surrounding the results.
我们对选民趋势的分析显示，堕胎权、医疗可及性和经济安全等特定议题正在推动选民偏好，其中哈里斯在社会议题上领先，而特朗普在财政政策上有明显优势。
Our analysis of voter trends reveals that specific issues like abortion rights, healthcare access, and economic security are driving preferences, with Harris maintaining a lead on social issues while Trump holds a significant edge on fiscal policies.
一项出乎意料的发展是，爱荷华州的民调数据，一个特朗普上次赢了10个百分点的州，显示哈里斯可能略有领先，主要得益于女性和年轻选民支持的激增。
In a surprising development, polling data out of Iowa, a state Trump won by 10 points in the last election, suggests Harris may have a slight lead, fueled by a surge in support among women and young voters.
爱荷华州今年早些时候通过的6州堕胎禁令似乎激发了跨党派的女性选民的关注，许多人对生殖权利被削弱表示担忧。
Iowa's strict 6-week abortion ban, passed earlier this year, appears to have galvanized women voters across party lines, with many expressing concern over the erosion of reproductive rights.
分析人士推测，如果爱荷华州的转变代表更广泛的趋势，这可能意味着其他不被视为民主党根据地的农村州也会出现类似的变化。
Analysts are speculating that if Iowa's shift is representative of broader trends, it could indicate similar shifts in other rural states not traditionally seen as Democratic strongholds.
哈里斯和特朗普各自计划举办不同的选举之夜活动。
For their part, Harris and Trump are planning contrasting election night events.
特朗普将在佛罗里达州的马阿拉戈度假村观看结果，而哈里斯则将与他的团队和支持者在华盛顿特区的母校霍华德大学举行特别活动。
Trump will watch results at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, while Harris will join her team and supporters in Washington, D.C., with a special event at her alma mater, Howard University.
双方竞选团队正准备度过漫长的一夜，法律团队和志愿者随时待命，以便在出现投票不规则情况时及时应对。
Both campaigns are preparing for a long night, with legal teams and volunteers on standby to monitor polling and address any voting irregularities as they arise.
竞选官员强调，每一张选票都会被计算在内，并准备应对任何选民恐吓或干预的企图。
Campaign officials have emphasized that every vote will be counted, and they are prepared to address any attempts at voter intimidation or interference.
选民权利和选举安全方面的紧张情绪依然高涨，特别是在提前投票创纪录的州。
Tensions over voter access and election security remain high, particularly in states where early voting saw record turnout.
来自北卡罗来纳州、乔治亚州和佛罗里达州的报告显示，选民和选务人员在投票站遇到由党派组成的选举诚信团体的对峙。
Reports from North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida detail incidents where voters and poll workers experience confrontations with partisan election integrity groups.
虽然两个竞选团队都声称致力于自由公平的选举，独立监督机构对这些冲突对选民信心和投票率的影响表示担忧。
While both campaigns insist they are committed to a free and fair election, independent watchdogs are expressing concern over the impact of these encounters on voter confidence and turnout.
这些州的选务官员正在加强安全措施，部署额外人员并增加监控，以确保选民无阻碍的投票。
Election officials in these states are ramping up security protocols, deploying additional personnel and increasing monitoring to ensure that voters can cast their ballots without obstruction.
随着这个充满争议的选举季即将结束，全国各地的社区都在准备迎接结果。
As this contentious election season draws to a close, communities nationwide are bracing for the outcome.
在俄亥俄和宾夕法尼亚州的农村，以及底特律和亚特兰大的城市中心，提前投票人数创下历史新高，反映出这次选举的重要性和选民的强烈情绪。
In rural Ohio and Pennsylvania, as well as urban centers like Detroit and Atlanta, early voters have turned out in record numbers, reflecting the high stakes and intense emotions surrounding this election.
分析人士指出，包括郊区女性、西班牙裔选民和年轻人等关键选民群体，可能会对最终结果产生重大影响。
Analysts point to key voting blocs, including suburban women, Hispanic voters, and young adults, as likely to influence the final result.
这些群体的选民热情高涨，许多人因气候变化、经济不平等、医疗可及性和移民改革等关键议题而受到激励。
Voter enthusiasm has surged among these groups, many motivated by critical issues like climate change, economic inequality, healthcare access, and immigration reform.
哈里斯团队一直积极争取这些人口，强调包容性和进步价值观，试图动员日益增多的年轻、多元选民。
Harris's team has been actively courting these demographics, emphasizing inclusivity and progressive values in an effort to mobilize the rising number of young, diverse voters.
为解决选民的焦虑，社区团体和组织在投票站提供支持，无党派志愿者为选民提供投票权利和程序的信息。
To address voter anxiety, community groups and organizations are offering support at polling stations, with nonpartisan volunteers providing information on voter rights and procedures.
公民团体还安排交通和提供育儿服务，旨在确保无论工作时间表或家庭承诺如何，每个人都能顺利投票。
Civic groups are also arranging transportation and providing childcare services, aiming to make the voting process accessible for everyone, regardless of work schedules or family commitments.
这种广泛的志愿服务凸显了公众的奉献精神，确保所有美国人都能毫无障碍地行使投票权。
This widespread volunteerism underscores the public's dedication to ensuring that all Americans can exercise their right to vote without barriers.
在公众情绪方面，美国人依然存在深刻的分歧。
In the realm of public sentiment, Americans remain deeply divided.
在城市地区，人们强烈要求进行进步改革和扩展社会服务，而许多农村选民则主张有限的政府和财政保守主义。
In urban areas, there is a strong push for progressive reform and expansion of social services, while many rural voters are championing limited government and fiscal conservatism.
在气候变化等紧迫问题上，候选人观点鲜明。
The candidates' contrasting views on pressing issues such as climate change are stark.
哈里斯承诺重新加入巴黎协定，并投资于可再生能源，以减少环境影响。
Harris has committed to rejoining the Paris Agreement and investing in renewable energy to mitigate environmental impact.
然而，特朗普承诺优先考虑国内能源生产，通过持续使用化石燃料和扩展钻探来强调能源独立。
Trump, however, has pledged to prioritize domestic energy production, emphasizing energy independence through continued fossil fuel use and expansion of drilling.
随着投票日的临近，提前投票的影响也备受关注。
As polls prepare to open for Election Day, there's also a focus on the impact of early voting.
已有超过1亿张提前选票投出，专家预测此次选举将创下选民投票率纪录。
With more than 100 million early ballots already cast, experts are predicting a record-breaking voter turnout.
这一激增主要归功于双方竞选活动的努力，包括广泛的广告宣传、外展活动和社交媒体活动鼓励提前投票。
This surge is largely attributed to the efforts of both campaigns, with extensive advertising, outreach, and social media campaigns encouraging early voting.
社交媒体影响者、名人和地方社区领袖积极参与， 激励年轻选民和首次投票的选民参加投票。
Social media influencers, celebrities, and local community leaders have taken an active role in motivating younger voters and first-time voters to participate.
同时，俄克拉荷马州的恶劣天气带来了额外的挑战。
Meanwhile, in Oklahoma, severe weather poses an additional challenge.
龙卷风和暴风袭击了该州部分地区，摧毁了房屋，导致数人受伤，并造成数千人断电。
Tornadoes and storms have swept through parts of the state, leaving homes destroyed, several injured, and thousands without power.
进一步的风暴威胁可能会使前往投票站的选民的旅行和安全复杂化。
The threat of additional storms could complicate travel and safety for voters heading to the polls.
当局正在与地方组织协调，提供紧急避难所和资源，以确保受影响地区的选民如果有需要，可以获得替代投票选项的资讯。
Authorities are coordinating with local organizations to provide emergency shelters and resources, ensuring that voters in affected areas are informed of alternative voting options if necessary.
回到选举前线，对将影响国会和州议会的下届选举的关注也日益增多。
Back on the election front, there's increasing focus on down-ballot races that will shape Congress and state legislatures.
参议院的竞争非常激烈，两党都在努力争取多数席位，以影响国家政策方向。
The Senate remains fiercely contested, with both parties striving for majority control to influence national policy direction.
在乔治亚州和亚利桑那州，竞争激烈的参议院选举增加了选举的紧张程度，吸引了来自全国党派的大量资金支持。
In Georgia and Arizona, competitive Senate races have heightened the stakes, drawing significant financial backing from national parties.
这些州的地方议题，如医疗可及性、可负担住房和犯罪防治，已成为辩论的焦点，将塑造未来几年的立法议程。
Local issues in these states, such as healthcare access, affordable housing, and crime prevention, have become focal points of debate, shaping the legislative agendas for the coming years.
在全国各地，参与为选举而奏的音乐家正准备在投票站进行表演，以营造一个欢乐、热情的气氛。
Across the country, musicians participating in Play for the Vote are preparing to perform at polling stations to create a festive, welcoming atmosphere.
这些努力引起了广泛关注，来自各种音乐流派的音乐家们致力于将选举日变成一个社区庆典，减轻选民压力并鼓励团结。
These efforts have gained notable attention, with musicians from every genre committed to turning Election Day into a community celebration, alleviating voter stress and encouraging unity.
组织者希望音乐能提醒人们，尽管意见分歧，美国人共享着一种共同的公民责任。
Organizers hope that music will serve as a reminder that, despite differences, Americans share a common civic duty.
随着双方竞选团队准备迎接这场预计将受到密切关注且可能会延长计票过程的选举，全国范围内的情绪充满了期待和谨慎的希望。
As both campaigns prepare for what is anticipated to be a closely watched and potentially prolonged vote counting process, the mood across the country is one of anticipation and cautious hope.
各州的选务官员正在加强对计票过程的透明度和准确性的承诺，承认可能会有法律挑战和重新计票的情况发生。
Election officials in each state are reinforcing their commitment to transparency and accuracy in the vote counting process, acknowledging the potential for legal challenges and recounts.
选举分析人士警告说，一些关键州的最终结果可能无法立即揭晓，建议耐心等待官员完成计票。
Election analysts are warning that final results in some key states may not be immediately available, advising patience as officials complete their counts.
明天，全国各地的选民将最终发表他们对这场被认为是近年来最重要且竞争最激烈的选举的意见。
Tomorrow, voters across the nation will finally have their say in what has been one of the most significant and hotly contested elections in recent memory.
两位候选人都提出了截然不同的美国未来愿景，让选民有明确的选择，最终将决定美国未来几年的方向。
Both candidates have put forth starkly different visions for America's future, leaving voters with a clear choice that will ultimately determine the direction of the nation for the years to come.
以上新闻资讯整理自孔雀台，由 iGo News 编辑播报。感谢您的收听，期待与您空中再会。
The above news information is compiled from a Peacock channel and presented by iGo News. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to your continued company on the air.